Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby. Let's join Mike and Kentucky Dave as they strive to be informative, entertaining, and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
Oh, Dave, did you survive Memorial Day weekend, my friend?
I did survive Memorial Day weekend. We are officially at the start of summer.
And officially at the start of episode 91, so how about that?
That's right, man. We're going to be at 100 before we know it.
Well, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge yet for that. But
we'll get there.
We will. We'll be there before we know it. Well, my man, what is up in your model sphere?
Well, as you mentioned, Memorial Day weekend has come and gone. So now that the weather's firmly in the spring-summer camp, that means a lot more outdoor activities, longer days. And unfortunately, that's had a little bit of an effect on my time at the bench. The Nationals are going to be here before you know it. I'm getting jazzed about that. Wonderfest is coming up in just a week. I'm jazzed about that. So I'm really looking forward to these next 60 to 90 days. They're going to be some great times, man. How about you?
June has run right up on us, and we got a lot going on around here, around my place. I'm sure you do too. And
tons.
Somehow we've got 3 episodes to kick out.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to do that in June, man.
2 more after this one, and just thinking about the planning ahead and trying to keep everything on course to deliver this show to everybody. That's about it, really, man. I've school ended for both my sons, and folks are back home. And just a lot of distractions. So the model sphere has been a little light in my world, Dave.
Yep. I understand. But since we're sitting here recording, that means there's got to be a modeling fluid. Do you have modeling fluid, Mike?
Oh yeah. I've took it down a notch tonight, Dave.
Okay. What did we get?
Made on honor, sold on merit. The famous Narragansett lager.
Oh, okay.
Since 1890.
You're kicking off the official summer with the summer beer.
Something like that. Got it for Memorial Day, and had a couple left over. So here we are.
Well, good.
What about you, my friend? Sounds thick.
No, it's actually not thick. We got this one from somebody when we went to Canada, and I don't have a freaking clue who it was. It's Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale from the Pride of Nova Scotia. And it's as it sounds, an India Pale Ale, 5% alcohol by volume. Good. That's good. Very. You would expect with an IPA that you might get that hop forward thing, but it's not real strong on this. So whichever listener out there left us with an Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale, this one's for you. We'll see how it is at the end of the episode.
And they'll probably come forward unless you hate it.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to hate it.
Well, we got a little action in the mailbag.
Yeah.
It's getting warmer outside, so it's waned a little bit. But, hey, we'll take what we can get.
That's right.
Well, we're going to have to bookend this one with the same person because we forgot somebody last episode. I don't know how this happened.
We forgot somebody? We?
Well, I failed to read it, and you failed to notice.
Okay.
So my apologies to Michael Carnalco, Queens, New York.
Oh, how did we forget Michael?
I don't know. We got excited about all the other stuff going on, I guess. I don't know.
I guess we did.
So he gets 2 this time. And we're going to start and finish with him.
All right.
So Michael wants to know, what real life subject would you be willing to take a dream trip to photograph for a future kit build?
I've actually done that a couple of times at the Naval Air Museum with an N1K2J, a Japanese fighter, and also again at the Naval Air Museum for the F4D Skyray. I'm trying to
dream trip though.
No, that I would say it would have to be going to the Royal Air Force Museum and photographing, say, the SM-79 Italian trimotor bomber or the Ki-46 Dyna. Although I've got a number of books where those photographs have been done, research books, but it would probably have to be somewhere in England. How about you?
Back in 2020, when we thought we were going to Europe, my friend Philip in Fenu, France, was going to take me and my son Jack to Saumur.
Oh, yeah.
To the museum. And I don't know if it'd be for any particular kit build. Well, maybe. They've got the Panzerwerfer 42 there.
Yeah.
I think the coverage of that online's, there's a few areas that I'd like to see a little bit more of. And that was going to happen until COVID happened and screwed it all up. So,
yep.
But I think JB is going there.
Yeah.
John Bonani, I think he's got plans to go there in the year here, and be curious to get his take on the museum and live a little vicariously through him, and maybe take some pictures for me. I don't know.
There you go.
Someday I'll get over there. So I think that's probably just the museum in general with a couple of subjects there. I think I would be interested in seeing.
That would definitely be worth seeing.
Well, after our last session with Steve Hustad, he wrote back in as promised, and oh wow, Dave. He sent about 15 topics for the Wheel of Accidental Wisdom.
Yes, he said he was going to.
And then it was supplemented with an additional 10 if you want to do a show contest themed one.
Oh.
I may mix and match.
Yeah, no, I think sprinkle those in.
Yeah, I mean, because some of these are short answer. So, Steve, we appreciate you thinking that through and delivering. So we're going to have a good one next time. That's going to be coming up in probably July. And we'll keep you posted, but the wheel is chock full now, Dave.
Yep. So we're going to have another wheel episode soon.
Well, July.
Yep.
It's not too far around the corner.
No, it isn't.
Next up is Anthony Galbraith, and he is writing to us from New Zealand. And he got a kick out of our... Oh, he's gone way back. Let's see. What's he say here? He found us through the Scale Scriber episode as he follows John.
Okay.
John Chung. And he's referencing episode 4, Goofs, Gaffs, and Blunders, our first Goofs, Gaffs, and Blunders episode.
I remember doing that.
And he said he hadn't laughed out so loud in a long time. So, well, glad we helped out with that.
Yes, laugh at my pain. Go ahead. Yeah. No, you listen, when you do something really boneheaded, if you don't laugh, you know, that's the one way to cope with it in this hobby.
Well, he says several years ago he was using Tamiya. He thinks AS11 is aerosol silver.
Yep.
I don't know. He's got a question mark. He's not sure if the number is right. Silver in the aerosol can. And he uses an airbrush and heard you could decant the material into a bottle and run it through the airbrush.
Yep.
So he decanted the can into a jar and some into the airbrush. And he pressed the lid on the small metal tin and sprayed his model.
Mm-hmm.
He used up the paint and was admiring the silver finish when, boom, the lid blew off the tin that he had decanted the paint into. Sprayed silver paint all over the place, up the wall, on his face, hands, and the model.
Oh.
And he says he learned that apparently there's a propellant that comes out that you have to degas it for some time before
Yes.
putting the lid on it.
Yes. Absolutely true.
Yeah, I've actually never, I don't know if I've decanted spray paint for airbrushing. I've never had a need to do that, but certainly learning what not to do.
Yeah, I've never had to do that either. I've known over the years a number of people who do exactly that with the AS11. But I've never done it myself. I do know that from reading people who talk about doing it, you have to decant it and then let it degas before you attempt to seal it up.
Next up, James Keenum. He's from right here in Kentucky, Dave. He's formerly from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Currently lives in, is it Reneville, Kentucky or Rineyville, Kentucky?
Rineyville.
So he's from Rineyville, Kentucky, just outside Elizabethtown.
I've been through Rineyville.
And he's getting back into modeling after the move and being packed up and misplacing some things. And he'd like to give a hobby store shout out
to
one I've not heard of, and maybe you have or have not. Hard Knocks Games and Hobbies between Elizabethtown and Radcliffe, Kentucky.
No, I had not, actually.
He says they're more of a gaming store with Gundam and sci-fi kits and such, but he says, boy, do they have the paint. They've got Tamiya, they've got Tamiya, Ammo by MiG, Vallejo, Citadel, and Mr. Hobby, Dave.
Oh, wow. That's a nice collection.
Yeah, some Mr. Hobby down the road from you there.
Yep. Listen, that's good news because, well, it's not close. It's not unbelievably far. That I find myself out in Radcliffe from time to time.
Jack and I got to run down to E-Town sometime here in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Probably on a Sunday. If that shop's open, I might have to swing up there and see what's going on.
Well, you let me know. We may be able to arrange a meeting and a drop-off.
Maybe, or I'll just run up to your place on the way home and loop around.
Oh, that's true. You could almost do that.
Well, his current modeling fluid is Buffalo Trace Bourbon Cream.
Okay.
Which is one of their liqueurs.
Right.
And he appreciates us sharing all our knowledge. Well, I guess that's what we do.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times we're sitting here sharing other people's knowledge, not our own. Heck, there's not an episode goes by that I don't learn new things.
I guess we can see it that way too. So yeah, you're right. We are sharing other people's knowledge. Paul Budzik from sunny California, Dave.
All right.
Well, Paul loves it when people say, well, the objective is always the same, to have a finished model. Like it's a given conclusion, which everybody subscribes. He guesses it's his iconoclastic nature, but he let his subscription expire to that a long time ago.
And, this is a really good point. Obviously we're building these things, and in theory, you want to have a finished model at the end. But, if you've got somebody who enjoys construction and doesn't like painting or whatever, if you're getting the joy out of doing whatever you're doing, the finishing the model is, if that's not necessary to what brings you enjoyment out of the hobby, you don't, you shouldn't feel pressure to get so many models a year finished or anything like that. I think he's right.
I agree. And that's what we were getting at a little bit in the prior episode. So I know where that's coming from.
Yep.
Up next, Steve Anderson from Matamidi, Minnesota.
Up there in the Great White North.
Next to Steve.
Yep.
Steve wants to thank us for talking up the God Hand nippers. He says after using them, he has to say, yep, they're worth it.
Yes.
He puts them right up there with his top favorite tools. And he says, "Wait, I don't have that list." So he's now starting that list. So it is his number one favorite tool currently.
Okay.
Number 2, to be determined.
Well, you got to start a list somewhere. But yeah, listen, that's a great place to start it. The God Hand Nippers they truly are one of the few tools I've ever used that really does make an immediate difference in your modeling experience.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess I should get some, Dave.
Yes, you should.
First question. What is our number 2 go-to tool if that's number 1?
Number 2 go-to tool. I'm probably going to go with a Harder and Steenbeck airbrush because while I've had a number of airbrushes over the year, and I have 4 currently, and I use all 4 of them. The one thing about the Harder and Steenbeck is that when you're doing really, really fine work, shading a panel line, weathering, the Harder and Steenbeck properly dialed in does stuff that I can't get any of the other airbrushes to do as well. So the Harder and Steenbeck's probably my number 2.
How'd you learn to use your feet, Dave? You said you got 4 airbrushes and you use them all.
Yes, I do. Because I use them for different jobs. There's some of them that are like, if I'm spraying a clear or a metallic, I always use my trusty Badger 150.
You could probably work a single action in your mouth. You could use 5.
Yeah, well, I don't do them all at once. Although I have used 2, switched back and forth. I had 2 loaded up and switched back and forth between the 2.
Man, you're awesome, Dave. I've never done that.
All right. So what's your number 2?
Well, it's kind of a collective. I think it's my sanding stuff because there's no one that I use more than the others probably.
Mm-hmm.
I like my Goodman sanding blocks.
Yep.
And I like all the homemade ones I've made that are similar to those. And I like my FlexiFile sanding sticks, and I like my FlexiFiles with the tapes.
Right.
I'm just using that stuff all the time, and it's all usually on my bench, open, ready to go when I'm working on something in the build phase. So,
oh yeah,
probably those things. I can't single out any one. I use files sometimes, but not a lot. Metal files.
Yeah. You're not like Evan who takes a metal file to every nub and piece of flash on a model.
Nah, they're too narrow. It's he must have some real fine control.
Yeah.
So that'd be my number 2. It's kind of my sanding stuff.
Okay.
He's got a final question.
All right.
We need to figure this out, or at least you do. Will you have a booth at Wonderfest this year, or are you just walking around? If you don't have a booth, how can a listener stop by and say hi?
Okay. Here's the answer to that one. We're not going to have a booth because Mike can't make it because he's on family vacation. I'm going to be walking around. What I'm going to try and do this year is shoot a lot of video. As far as meeting, if all you've got to do is go on Facebook and DM me, and I'm going to be there. And if you DM me, we'll find each other. I'm also going to be wearing my outrageously obnoxious plastic model Mojo shirt, which it stands out. Let's just say it stands out. So That should help you find me. But if you come into Wonderfest and you want to hook up and talk, just DM me on the Facebook page.
I would say you'd be the only guy there in a black and white chessboard bowling shirt, but it says Plastic Model Mojo all over it. So
yes,
If there's another guy in such a shirt that doesn't say Plastic Model Mojo, that's not Dave.
Oh, no, but I'll get a photograph of him if there is such a guy.
Or Hawaiian shirt, same kind of.
Hey, you never know what you're going to see at Wonderfest. That's kind of one of the joys of Wonderfest, because it's that blend of model show and sci-fi convention and, all of those things. So you never know, when you're going to see, somebody in costume, the Star Wars 501st, or, somebody from some anime show dressed. That's one of the joys of Wonderfest.
It leaves you to wonder, Dave.
Yes, it does.
It's terrible. Well, Dave, finally, from the email side of things, Mr. Michael Karnauka from Queens, New York, again.
Right.
We'll get up to date with Mike.
All right. I'm sure he's got another good question.
This is a good one, and this would actually been a good wheel one, but we'll go ahead and we'll take this one now.
Okay.
What kit early on, when you started making models or when you started modeling, did you pick up that made you realize it was beyond your abilities and that you were in over your head?
Okay, I've got two answers for that. One, the Revell 32nd scale UH1D. The one in the classic box with the, attacking the bridge over the river.
Yep.
You know that one?
I know that one.
I got that one as a birthday gift. A lot of parts, big, a lot of fine stuff. I ended up putting too much glue on the rotors and they melted. And yeah, I realized quickly that was beyond my current modeling skill. The other one was my first ever vacuform, which was I bought it through Squadron, but I can't remember who the manufacturer was. It was a JU-86. And this was not a great vacuform to begin with. It wasn't like a Rare Plains or, something where, really well molded.
That's relative anyway, right?
But there were a few vacuform manufacturers who really, really were good. I mean, their stuff, other than having to cut it out, was molded as beautifully as any injection kit out there. But this was not one of those. I got it. I remembered arriving and unboxing it and going, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? And there was no YouTube back in those days to teach you how to cut out and assemble vacuform kits. I mean, I had read some articles and all, but it was just, it was awful. How about you?
I just got to harken back and think of all the stuff I know I started that I ended up bending as a kid. I think one of them was a Revell 32nd scale. It's either Hellcat or Wildcat. I can't remember which one they made.
Wildcat.
And I just never. There's a couple of those I started and never finished. I think I started the Flying Tiger P40 as well.
Yep.
That had some wonky retractable landing gear or something. And,
yep.
And the stuff was too big, and I never could get it together. And that's when I was pretty young, though.
Yep.
And I probably even, I'm trying to think of the first thing I built without my dad's help. It was a Monogram 48 scale Hawker Hurricane.
Okay, good kit.
Yeah, except when you're 12, you don't mask canopies and stuff, and you end up just painting the sides of the canopy the sand color because you screwed it up and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Or gloss yellow, which is probably the sand color I had.
Oh.
Me, big planes. I was in over my head with anything bigger than 48 scale for sure.
So now we know why you went over to armor. Aircraft were too hard for you.
That's not exactly the story.
Well, that's what I heard. Let's put it that way. That's what I heard from that story.
Okay. Well, that's all the email, Dave. What's happening over on Facebook Instant Message or Facebook Direct Message?
Well, I've got a few of them. One is a modeler named Bob Smith.
Does he make the super glue?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he reached out listening to. He's the guy who had previously asked about pilot figures.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's good. We got some. Yeah, go for it.
And Bob Smith is an alias. He's from upstate New York. He realized when listening to one of the podcasts where I obviously mentioned it, like a couple other modelers who have come up to me since we've started doing this, he also is a modeler who he and his wife adopted a daughter from China. And it turns out that he was there. I was there in 2005 and 2010, and he was there in 2009. So he was in between my two trips. You know, it's, again, you know how I talk about meeting a modeler and you immediately have that rapport and you start talking and there's none of that warming up stuff because you speak the same language already. That same thing applies to people who've had the experience of going over and adopting daughters from China. And, immediately, as soon as you both discover the fact that you've done it, you drop right into the talking about the experience and when and where and, what you did and all. And so we ended up exchanging pictures of our daughters. And it was just, that makes at least 3 or 4 modelers I've had or listeners I've had that experience with. And, it's great every time. So, I enjoy that. So anybody else out there, please contact me.
Did we get any help with the pilot figures?
Yes, we did. We did suggested several manufacturers that he might want to look at. Now, another modeler reached out, Jason Campbell reached out, because he went to the Knoxville show, which we were trying to get to, but just life got in between. But he gave us a little report from what happened to at the show. And he said there were 355 total entries, 51 aircraft, 55 armor, 113 automotive, and 136 miscellaneous, of which 46 were Gundam Mecha category. So interesting, if you look at that show was heaviest in automotive and then heaviest in miscellaneous after that, which, that kind of turns on its head the normal, what we think of as the normal distribution in when you go to an IPMS local contest, where you expect to see either armor or aircraft to be the heaviest. So
the Gundam folks down there in East Tennessee are really making an effort to
hit
these shows and are really moving the needle down there. So good on those guys.
Yep. In fact, he said he met because he actually won in one of the categories. And he met a gentleman who took 3rd place in that category, and he was from Virginia, just across the border, and was talking about how he was envious of Jason having that local Gundam group there, because over in Virginia, where he was from, he didn't have a local Gundam focused group. And it was apparently very, very successful. You and I are going to have to try and make a plan to get down there.
Yeah, I know. I hate we couldn't make that one. I was really looking forward to getting down there, and just had all these ideas of where we're going to go after the show and get dinner and all this stuff. And my old stomping ground, it just didn't work out, unfortunately. So we apologize to those guys. We kind of talked it up a little bit, but just didn't happen. So.
Yeah.
Keep asking us, guys. Keep reminding us. Let us know when the show is, and maybe we'll get there. I hope so.
Yep. And then a number of people DM'd me on subject that I'll talk about a little later. But overall, we did have I had a lot of active Facebook DMs in the last week or less.
Yeah. 72 hours even.
Exactly.
From the time of this recording.
Exactly.
Is that it, my friend?
That's it. When you're done listening to this episode, if you would, give us a rating on whatever podcast app you're using to listen, Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, whatever it is. Give us a rating. We'd appreciate 5 stars. And then also, if you know somebody, a fellow modeler who's not listening to podcasts, please, we'd appreciate it if you would take a moment to tell them about the podcast, explain what podcasts are. You might have to help them download a podcast app and show them how to subscribe. A recommendation from a current listener is the single best way to grow a podcast. We continue, much to our amazement, to continue to grow. And so I know a number of listeners who've come up and talked to me at shows who said somebody recommended the podcast. So if you do that, we'd appreciate it.
In addition to that, please check out all the other content out there in the model sphere. We've got a lot of fellow podcasts out there who you can listen to as well. If you would go to www.modelpodcast.com, that's model podcast plural. It's a consortium website set up with the help of Stuart Clark from the Scale Model Podcast up in Canada. And we've aggregated the banner links to all the podcasts who'd like to participate in the spirit of cross promotion. And if you go to modelpodcast.com, you get an easy avenue there to just click and go listen to all those other podcasts. In addition, we've got a lot of blog and YouTube friends out there in the model sphere. First up is the Inch High Guy, Jeff Groves. The Inch High Guy blog, all things 72nd scale. If you're into that scale and want to keep current and see what Jeff Groves is doing, you can go to Inch High Guy and check it out. In addition to that, we've got model airplane maker Chris Wallace. He's got a blog and YouTube channel. Great aircraft modeler, a channel that keeps getting better as we go along, man.
Yep.
Stephen Lee, Sprue Pie with Fret's a great blog on scale modeling and the model sphere. Steve's got a lot of long and short form content. You can keep up with his current builds. A great modeler, a great model philosopher as well.
Yep. We need to have him back on sometime.
We probably do. So we'll try to work that in this year.
Yep.
Scale Canadian TV, Jim Bates. Come on, Jim.
Yep. It's time to drop another episode.
You're slacking, buddy. He's busy. Yeah. He's got stuff going on in Seattle. So
yes, he does.
It's all modeling related. Maybe a new club or something.
Yep.
And we can't forget our good buddy Evan McCallum, Panzermeister 36 YouTube channel. Check it out. He's got a great channel showing you how to weather models, and he's got some product reviews and some build reviews. Just all good stuff.
Yep. He's got another video that he's going to drop soon. So we're waiting, Evan. Can't wait to see it. Now, this is the point in the episode where I would normally do my plug for joining IPMS USA, IPMS Canada, the national organizations. But however, with this episode, I'm not going to do that plug. Over the weekend, members of IPMS USA received their journal, and in that journal was an editorial by the president of IPMS USA, Dave Lockhart. That editorial shocked me, and I know it shocked a lot of people. If you're an IPMS member, you've gotten your journal, you've read it. It was posted on the internet very quickly afterward and commented on. I found the opinions expressed in that editorial were not in keeping with what I know the values of IPMS USA are. And I know Dave Lockhart, and he's a good person. And frankly, I think he simply was poorly expressing some frustrations. Remember, being the president of the organization is it's a volunteer position. All of these things are volunteer positions. Dave has subsequently reflected, given the reaction, and realized that he did not express himself in the manner that he meant to, or that he says he meant to. Some of the listeners, Stuart Clark up at Scale Model Podcast, did an interview with Dave Lockhart right after, just really it dropped that they were recording this. And Dave expressed his regrets at how that came off. And I just want to know, I've been encouraging people to join IPMS USA. It's a fantastic organization. I still think it's a fantastic organization. The vast majority of the members are positive, and it's a wonderful experience. In fact, even the vast majority of the e-board expressed regret and disappointment at what Dave said and how he said it. So I got contacted by a lot of people when that editorial came out and then got posted on the internet. And I just want all of you listeners to know that's not the representation of IPMS USA that I want. It's not what the many of the things expressed in it are not what I believe the organization stands for. IPMS USA, modeling doesn't exist because IPMS USA exists. It's the other way around. IPMS USA exists because modeling exists, and we are there to serve the modelers. And going forward, again, Dave has gone on Scale Model Podcast and apologized for how he expressed himself, realizing that maybe he needs an editor in the future. And I just want you, all of you people who have told me you've joined IPMS USA over the last couple of years as I've been encouraging you, please stick with the organization. Understand that it is a positive organization overall, a positive group of modelers, and we will get through it, and the organization will be better for having passed through this. And if any of you out there who haven't contacted me want to contact me, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to discuss it with you. And many of you already have. Frankly, I just wanted to take a moment to tell everybody what I thought of it and encourage you to take this and move forward positively with the organization.
Well, Dave, we should have a word from our sponsor.
Yes, we should.
Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com.
Well, Dave, back to the IPMS. Come and make it in Texas.
How close are we, Mike?
Dave, at the time of this recording, we are 64 days away from the IPMS National Convention in San Marcos, Texas.
Holy free holies. I cannot wait.
Well, mentioned last time the rental car's taken care of. We know when Evan's coming in, and
Yep.
we just got to tighten up our plans a little bit and get on down the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we've got an update from Brandon Jacob. He says he's got a caveat.
All right.
He had to turn to his secret network of semi-reliable subcontracted secret agents who are permanently entrenched in the San Marcos area. And he says a meeting of top secrecy was held this past weekend at an undisclosed location along the Texas coast. And here's what he can tell us. San Marcos has a brewery.
Well, good.
And one of his sub-agents has ferreted out Roughhouse Brewing, located at 680 Oakwood Loop, San Marcos, Texas.
Sounds like we may have to pick up some local refreshment while we're down there.
Well, if anybody else likes brew pubs, you need to check it out at www.roughhousebrewing.com. And from the website, he says this is located on their family's 50-acre ranch in San Marcos. The brewery focuses on executing farmhouse ales, traditional lagers, and spontaneous cave-aged beers. Now, that's got my attention.
Yes.
What's a cave-aged beer?
We may have to drop by there to find out. And by the way, I do think everyone, when you're born in Texas, they automatically give you a 50-acre ranch. It's just,
Just part
of the birthright.
Their farmhouse ales undergo 100% fermentation in American white oak. Is this foeders, a large wooden barrel? Fetters?
Oh.
I'm not sure how you pronounce that word. I got to have to look it up and learn something, Dave.
All right.
And they use their own house mixed cultures, which includes yeast harvested from the Pasternak Ranch, and the brewery's water is supplied from their own on-site well, tapping into the Cow Creek section of the Trinity Aquifer, providing some of the highest quality water in Central Texas, Dave.
That sounds like we're definitely going to have to check out that. I love finding local breweries and local independent brews.
Roughhouse offers food, beer, and ales. Check out their website where they list each offering, and they all look really good. Sounds good, Dave. So that's our update from Brandon.
Yep, sounds good. And you know what? We're going to be down there for, assuming we make it with Evan, we're going to be down there and we're going to have a number of days. And, not every minute of every day is going to be at the model show. So we're going to have to go out and explore a little.
It's time for the Bench Top Halftime Report, brought to us by Tackett Z. Tackett Z, the must-have tools from the model maker. You can check out everything Tackett Z's got to offer by going to www.tacketz.com. Dave, what's on your bench?
Well, what's on my bench is the F8 Crusader that I am rushing now to get done for the Nationals because it's got to go into the Model Geeks group build. Fuselage is sealed up. I'm dressing the seams, and Lord willing and the creek don't rise, it should be in primer within the next 7 days. And once it's there, man, it's a run to the border as far as getting it done.
Anything else?
I'm focused on that. I've got other things on the bench, but they are all sitting still right now because I have to get this done. How about you?
Man, my last 2 weeks have been almost completely devoid of progress and bench time, unfortunately.
It happens, especially spring, summertime, graduation season, end of the college semester season.
Final exams in high school and college, graduation parties. Just not a lot of time. Trying to think what I did do. I think I primed some railroad ties to start experimenting with how I'm going to paint the railroad track section of my KV-85 base. I think that's pretty much it. And I may have even talked about that last time.
No, I don't think you had primed those ties, but I think last time we talked, Martin Drayton was doing a very similar base type, and he had posted some pictures of what he had done. And
true.
I think that's part of what inspired you to begin priming the ties, to begin experimenting based on what you're going to try and do with your railroad ties.
Well, I think so. And unfortunately, something arrived in the mail that's going to have me pivot away from the KV85 project for a little bit and get back to the E16 Paul and try to get that sucker done. But we'll talk about what arrived a little bit later.
Okay.
In between a couple of the next segments. But man, that's about it. I got to get back to the bench and start working on that airplane.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Dave, that's all I got. Have you got anything else?
That's it, man. So, Mike, have you been buying anything modeling related lately? Is your wallet broken, or are you husbanding your resources?
Don't know that I'm husbanding my resources, but I've not actually bought a lot. But I did buy something cool, and I think folks will be curious to hear about it. I just picked up Vespid Models Tiger 1 early production kit.
So did you get it, and have you looked at it?
Oh, I've got it right here in front of me, man.
And I know from having seen the Vespid kits, those things are awfully nice.
I tell you, it's pretty cool because this thing probably, even in 72nd scale, has probably as many parts as Tamiya's most recent Tiger 1 kits.
Yep.
The kit looks really nice. I tell you, though, there's one thing here that's a little peculiar.
Which is?
Well, you know, on the, let's see, what side is that? It would be the port side of the tank. That'd be the left side, right? Looking forward.
Yes, port is left.
The Tiger had a small diameter tow cable. It was the track change cable. You know, the tracks for the Tiger tank are massive and
right.
Something that's hard to manage manually. So, between using this small tow cable and using the drive sprocket as a capstan, you can actually winch the track up onto the road wheels. The box art on this kit shows the track change cable in place on that side of the tank. It's the CAD rendering. It's even in a different color than some of the other parts. But in the kit, actually, the mounting hardware for that cable are molded into the side of the tank, but there's no cable.
Huh.
Which is kind of interesting because the rest of this kit is beautiful, but that cable is kind of a unique feature to the Tiger 1.
I wonder why. I mean, if they had gone all the way to the trouble of rendering it in the CAD and in the box art, why it wouldn't exist in the kit? That's weird.
So I got online and looked around, and I couldn't find a review yet, a substantive one. Let's just say that that mentioned it, or the lack of it, actually. I just thought that was kind of peculiar. Because any modeler wanting to do this kit is gonna want that cable in place because it's kind of always there. Well, I won't say always, but it's usually there. Let's just say that. So not having it there is a pretty interesting omission. So maybe there'll be an aftermarket rescue. I don't know.
Now, real quick question. Do you know who Vespid is? Is that another brand name of another manufacturer for their 72nd scale line? Or
I've got no idea.
Okay, well, if any listener out there knows the answer to that question, is Vespid its own company, or is it related to, connected to one of the big kit manufacturers, you know, Taycom or whatever it might be? If you know the answer to that question, please let us know.
You know, that this kit's got a metal barrel, actually a 2-piece metal barrel, and a resin cast or 3D printed resin muzzle brake. Real nice. The photo etched fret's got the engine screens on it. A couple of the, it's got the bracketry for the turret mounted smoke dischargers. And it's got about a 10 or maybe a dozen other small parts on there for further detailing, but no track change cable. Interesting.
We'll find out more later. I'm sure some listener out there may have an aftermarket solution or may have an explanation. So if you're out there listening, let us know.
To be honest, I think since the last time we ran this segment, this is the only thing I've bought. So I've been pretty good.
Well, I to be honest with you, and this almost always happens to me in the run up to the Nationals, is that I start husbanding resources. I start, slowing down my modeling purchases, etc. Since the Indianapolis show, I can tell you the only thing I have bought was something I bought recently because I was talking with Jim Bates about it and realized that I didn't have the book. The Through the Lens book on Dieppe, and Dieppe is always of interest to me, and the Through the Lens book on Dieppe is particularly interesting because, of course, there are a lot of photographs of the aftermath taken by German propaganda photographers, as well as just the common German soldier. So it's a really good book. And I realized I didn't have it in my collection. And when Jim and I were discussing some Dieppe-related stuff, I realized I didn't have it. And so I went out on the internet and looked and was able to pick up a used copy very, very inexpensively. But that is the only modeling-related purchase I have made in the last couple of weeks at least.
Well, those books are a rabbit hole, man. Yeah, in fact, we talked about the Battle of Bulgin with Steve last time.
Yep.
And wonder if he's got that one yet now that I've talked about it. But I've got that one. I've got the Villers Bocage book. That one's good too. It's not very big, but it's really interesting read. You can just peruse those books for hours and learn a lot of information and get a lot of ideas.
Yeah, the Ploesti one is one, I think it's probably the first one I bought, and it is just awesome. And you're right. That's one of those books that you can sit down, start leafing through. The next thing you know, you look up and an hour or two has passed because you've just been looking at photo after photo and seeing interesting thing after interesting thing.
That's for sure, man.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it. That's all I've got.
All right, man. Well, hope we can keep people's attention with this episode.
Getting the right sized base for your model, diorama, or vignette can be difficult and time-consuming. Bases by Bill has the solution with their all-new custom-sized display bases. Offering sizes of 4 to 30 inches, you can choose the dimensions you want and get the size you need every time. And they can laser engrave the base with a unit emblem or text to your specifications. Better still, shipping is included within the lower 48 states. Built by modelers for modelers, Bases by Bill has bases and display cases for any type of model and for any size. Visit their website at basesbybill.com to see their products or to get your own custom-built base or display case quote. Use the code MOJO at checkout to apply a 15% listener discount to your order. That code again is MOJO for 15% off. Bases by Bill for all your model display needs.
Well, Dave, what I was alluding to earlier is my base for the E16 Paul came from Bases by Bill this past week.
Yes. And man, does it look beautiful.
Yeah, it does look beautiful. I'm not going to show it because I've really put the cart before the horse with this one.
Well, so, wait a minute. It's a very nice catapult display base at the moment.
Well, but it's got the name of the plane and the catapult on it, Dave.
True. You know, if you want to pick nits.
Well, I don't know if it's picking nits or not, but folks going to have to wait to see it. But I want to thank the gang there at Bases by Bill for taking my suggestions or my plan and offering their suggestions to get that kind of refined a little bit to make it all work a little bit better. And I can't be more pleased with it. I think it's really sharp, just what I was after. So, folks, check them out. If you got a special bass need or something you're considering, they'll quote it. They'll give you some suggestions to help you get to the end, and you should be happy with it. Well, Dave, our special segment tonight is a Mojovian at Moson.
All right.
And as luck would have it, listener Adam Coleman from Texas happened to travel to Hungary to the Moson show. We had a little chat with him to discuss what all that was like and his take on it, and it was real interesting.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into that, man. Well, Dave, we got an old friend of the podcast back who we met in, I think, first time in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think he's an expat from Australia, currently living in Texas. Is that right? Adam Coleman, how you doing?
Hey, good evening, guys.
Did I get that right? You're from a little bit of everywhere.
Yeah, you nailed it. Just like my modeling history, I do a little bit of everything. I've been a little bit everywhere.
Well, good. Well, we wanted to have you on, and actually, just like the suggestion for a call-in show, you thought actually that it might be worthwhile to get on there and talk about this show in Moson that you recently attended not too long ago in Hungary. The first thing I want to ask is, well, just to put the pieces together, you have a Hungarian connection, which may have helped you get to this destination, I suspect.
Yes, my lovely young wife is originally born and everything from Hungary. Obviously lives in the US now and is a US citizen, but is very much a native speaker and certainly knows the nuances very well. She left in her early 20s. She's from actually a different part of the country. So Moson is even a little bit more unusual for her too in some ways.
Well, what was it like traveling over there as far as a destination, as far as complexity or simplicity? A lot of our listeners don't do the international thing, and a lot of them are itching to try it or are just curious what it might take to fill out their bucket list of possibly going somewhere outside the United States to a show.
Absolutely. Central Europe is obviously was in the past, up until 1990 or so, under the Warsaw Pact and all that kind of thing. So I've been going there since I met her around the late 90s, 2000. So I've seen a lot of change go on. But getting to Budapest, Hungary is really the center of everything. And if you can imagine a clock with 5 different directions is basically how you access around the country. There's 5 different motorways labeled M1 to M5, and each of them are high-speed, European Union motorways. They're designed for heavy traffic, and of course, Hungary being where it is a cross junction between literally half a dozen countries either side of it. So all of the things that you would already expect to be in place, a good infrastructure, flying into Budapest, getting a rental car, getting a hotel with all of the international brands, whether it's Hilton or, Holiday Inn, all that stuff is very much available in the capital, Budapest. Once you leave Budapest, and that's where sort of, things start to change. More or less, as you go east towards Ukraine, what would be northeastern Romania, it gets a little bit more traditional. People speak a little differently. And, of course, quite frankly, probably the standard of living starts to drop a little more. In the south, where my wife's from, that's very agricultural. From a cool standpoint, it happens to be where most of the military activity is. So I've got some stories about that. And as you go west towards Austria and Slovakia, Hungary for Austrians who are fairly wealthy from an income standpoint, and even Slovakians or Germans from southern Germany or eastern Germany, the cost of everything in Hungary is significantly less. So that becomes holidays destination for them. So the western side of Hungary, where the Moson Megyerovar show is held, and I'll pronounce that again in the Hungarian way, which is Moson Megyerovar. Moson is the correct pronunciation. Magyar means Hungarian. Ovar means fort. So the Hungarian Moson fort is located right in the extreme west side of the country, and it's only 6 kilometres, so what's that, 3.5 miles from the Austrian border, and about 15 kilometres, it's at about 9.5 miles from Slovakian border. So when I was going to, isn't it just great, right? There happens to be a coincidence. She wants to go home and see her mother, and I just happen to find that there's a model show on. Now, I pulled this off again last year for a regional show in Hungary, which was actually held at one of the military bases, which we can go into later if you like. But that provided me with a little taste of going to a larger, type event in Hungary. I had actually been to a very small single town event a few years back as well. But so I've gone from the small to the medium to the large, and Moson Megyerovar being obviously the large one. So conveniently, I just happened to be checking the dates, and I said, hey, you could go and see your mum, and we could go and do this at the same time. And I got the look. But I got the understanding as well. And I've learnt a long time ago that to give the actual time period involved a few hours or even a day's collateral either side, just for any kind of additional vendor time or something that could happen. And everything was passed on. Fortunately, she appreciates the hobby after being around me for a long time and knows what I like.
Question for you is two questions. One, is this your first time at Moson? And number two, is this the largest show in Hungary every year?
First time at Moson, and it is the largest by far.
Okay, so good planning on your part.
Absolutely, but I mean, you've got to just to give it some perspective here. This meant a diversion of, Hungary's only a small country, really. I mean, I live in Texas, so these things are sort of minimal to me. But it was from Budapest to the Austrian border is about 2.5 hours on the high-speed motorway, and that's probably if you're over the speed limit. So Moson Megyerovar being so close to Austria, just getting there is fun anyway, because you get overtaken by some Audi that's doing 175 kilometres an hour that goes by you that you see in the rear mirror, and you think, "Wow, what was that?" Oh, I think that was, that kind of stuff. But I kind of, and I speak a little bit of Hungarian, and so I can understand. But you know what? The thing in all my travels in my modelling life, is irrespective of the language, of whether I've been in contests in Malaysia or Singapore or even actually Hong Kong, we all speak model, right? I mean, we all know what fuselage is. We all know what gap is. We all know that, right? And irrespective of the language, everybody gets that. And so going to an international event like Moson, if you're from the US, you're not going to have an issue. It's going to be fine. You'll look at everything in the Hungarian, you'll go like, oh my goodness, what does this mean? But I mean, it's all there. Model registration is here. You pick up your entrance packet there. It's all quite linear and logical, and we can talk about that.
It's Moson. I know if you go to Scale Model World, you will hear people endlessly talk about the fact that the contest is a very small portion. You've got all the SIG tables and the displays. Is Moson more like an American contest as far as where the big part is the contest, or does Moson have a lot of club displays and stuff more like Scale Model World?
Oh, by far, it's going to be the entrants that are in the in the various categories themselves. Can I talk about how it's laid out?
Yeah, my question next was going to be let's step through the venue. What's the venue and what it's like, how it's set up is probably the next logical place to go. Yeah, tell us a little bit about this venue, because it looked like a gymnasium type of affair. I'm not sure what the original purpose of the structure is, but what's it like rolling into this place, and how's the show set up?
Moson is a town of about 30,000 people. And the first clue that there was something really different about going to this model contest was I received an email, and some of you, obviously, as a 50-something-year-old male, you receive an email from an attractive woman that says, "I see you're going to the model show. Here's all the information that you need. I'll be your point of contact, etc., etc." And I suddenly looked at it and I thought, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but it kind of does. And either I've been hacked really well or, I'm in luck. And anyway,
I'm liking the sound of this already.
Well, it turns out that because registration is done online and very, very efficiently up to about a week prior to the event. So there's a number of bits of correspondence that occur electronically. And of course, the difference about Moson Mojovian is that that Moson show is that it's actually run by the town. So the town itself is a population of about 30,000. And how it came to be was about 20-something years ago. They were having the 25th year this year. Some Hungarian modelers went to France and they took some of their friends to a French show. They took some of their one of their friends' models with them, or several of them, and they started telling people all about how they have this event in Hungary, and all these French people were pretty impressed, and all the people thought, wow, this is really good. So they thought they better start actually fulfilling what they told everybody. And so the first year they had something like 30 entries in the front door. After they decided a few weeks before, they managed to get the front room at the local library. They had about 30 entrants, and but the town quickly woke up to this, and to this day, the Moson Model Club only has 8 members. Okay? There's only 8 modelers that are in their little group there. The town itself takes over and provides all of the infrastructure for the event. And that means that attractive lady that sent the email is actually the marketing director for the city. And she's making sure that I've got accommodation, which was a nice suggestion on her behalf initially when I read it. She making sure that I had that I knew where all the restaurants were, just all that sort of very helpful municipal stuff. And so anyway, needless to say, it all sort of dawned on me the very first morning when I got there. So, but the night before, I go to we go to some of the restaurants, my wife and I, and these places are packed, absolutely packed. And I could see, wow, these are modelers. I knew they were modelers. I could see the T-shirts. I could see the model club colors.
There's a certain appearance of modelers worldwide, isn't there?
Absolutely. And so, I finished whatever it was I had. And I actually believe I had Hungarian goulash that night. I was walking out the door and I said, oh, are you here for the show? And said to this guy, and there was half a dozen of them. He said, yeah, in an accent. I said, where are you from? Oh, we're from Saxony in Germany. I said, okay, and how many here? Oh, we bought a bus. There's 30 of us. I'm like, okay. I thought, this is getting interesting. I go down to my rental car. I start seeing some other people. Oh, you're here for the show? Yeah, where are you from? Oh, we're from Belgium. Okay, right. I looked on their plates, and the license plates were from Belgium. I thought, okay. So fair enough. I thought, well, like all good model events, And it suddenly dawned on me as I was seeing all this. I thought, this is nothing like I've ever seen before. And I thought, well, like at all good shows, I'll get to the event early.
Adam, I
Yep.
want to interrupt you because I am having just the weirdest time wrapping my mind around the fact that there's a model club with 8 modelers in this town, but the town decided at some point, it would be a great tourist attraction for us to put on a giant model show every year. That's wild.
Yeah, and it became, and sort of, I was on my own sort of discovery journey of this, half in Hungarian, half from inferring model experiences before, and then my eyes were opened the next morning when I got to the event, and that's how I sort of joined the dots with it all. And then I actually met 1/4 of the Moson Model Club, and had a discussion with them about how this all came to be. But the city is 110% behind it. It's the biggest event of their year that they put on, and they provide the complete infrastructure, tax breaks, all kinds of different things to encourage and grow the event.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Well, I will tell you from working closely with IPMS USA and getting to see behind the scenes of the planning and execution of a national. The town where it's held, year to year, obviously it moves from different places. Some of the Chamber of Commerce and visitors bureaus become involved. They supply volunteers. They supply advertising. There are other towns where basically they could care less that you're there. But the fact that the town puts on the contest itself is just mind-blowing to me. Now I have to go to this show just to see that. Go on. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's I was discovering all these uniques as I went along. So, like all contests, they generally around at least those big shows, on the night before, vendors are bringing in stuff, etc. So I drove past the event area on the Friday night just to get an understanding of where it was, and it was only about 3/4 mile from the restaurant where I was at. But to give you the layout now, so you come across, so because the town's putting this on, right, you have to put these things in that perspective. So the city's entire sports centre, athletic centre, is being used for the event, and that involves 2 full-size, and I mean full-size, basketball stadiums, okay? A very large parking area. Of course, everybody attending events at the sports facility have to be there. There's big open areas there where, of course, where they actually have, we'll talk about this later, but the food trucks and everything that are provided. And of course, there's going to be various displays that are outdoor as well. So if you can imagine that visually, that's what the town is providing. Now, not only are they providing those assets, they're providing people to manage all that. So simple, important things like the trash collection, the watching of the models on display. That's all the local high school kids that sign up for that. And these kids are not like, hanging out on their phones, sitting down, slouched on the corner. They're walking around, they might have their category that they're taking care of. And, as you go to enter your model, and I entered a couple in one category, they're going to help you where that's going to be placed. They're going to make sure that you've got the right category on your pre-registration form. and they're going to be there all day. There will be another modeler, an experienced modeler with them if they have a question. But the point is that the whole town is involved in this. So entry for people to the show, just people off the street that want to go check it out, that's actually free of charge.
Oh, so there's no general admission fee for people coming in to look.
That's correct. No fee.
Wow.
So once I sort of got this out on the Friday night, like you do on the first Saturday morning, you get there relatively early. Because I'd pre-registered all my stuff, I walked in and I had my wife drop me off because I said, look, I'm going to be about 3 hours. Let's WhatsApp me later and we'll find out whether I'm still here or broke or whatever. Or and so she drops me off. I pull outside and sure enough, where I was. For example, the Hungarian army has a outside display, and they had stuff there that I wanted to check out as well. I thought that's pretty cool. I'll come back to that later. That looks like an interesting set of vehicles and little toys with pointy ends on them over there. I'll go look at that. But I went inside, and I had all my forms ready. I went in. I get met by this attractive lady at the front counter who says, he says to me in perfect English, good morning, Mr. Coleman. Thank you for traveling. Here is your welcome bag, and I'm going to give you your thank you appreciation certificate from the town now. And I'm like, what? And sure enough, I have a certificate from the town saying thank you, basically for travelling so far and coming to our event. I thought, oh, this is all right. Okay,
this is wild.
Yeah, really different, and everyone's like, very, very, very. Everyone's friendly and all that stuff, and eager to get stuff. So I go out there, I find my categories on the tables, but when I go out there, I'm like, whoa, this is a serious size sports stadium. This is a full, like a basketball, ice hockey type thing. And so I put my stuff on the tables and I give it a glance, as you do. And I thought, well, I'm going to come back later because registration's open till 11. I'm going to go to the I'm going to find the vendors. So anyway, yeah. So I go straight. I look upstairs and I see, there's like the whole area surrounding this whole stadium is full of vendors. This looks pretty good. This must be it. Anyway, after several hours of ooh ah, and lots of euros being spent and dealing with PayPal and all that kind of stuff, no American dollars are going to get accepted. It's a little too abstract, but you can use PayPal, and most of those guys have that stuff. But I finished this after a few hours. I do several laps, and I think I'm looking down at the stadium, and I thought, wow, there must be at least 1,000 people down there on the floor. This is like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking at all these models and lots of models. Anyway, I thought, okay, fine. So text the wife and say, look, I think it's a good time. We can probably get lunch. Well, I happen to be very good friends with the guy who is the chief judge, okay? And that's another story. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I chatted with him briefly. He'd actually published a book about a month before the show, and I was the translator for the book from Hungarian to English, and putting it in the right linguistic context for American English, British English, Australian English. I mean, there's got to be an English that everybody understands, rather than just one type of format. Right. So I actually I did that with him. So I had to see him quickly because there was some book signing stuff that had to happen anyway. So, that was kind of the first day, other than I go out into the back of of that first stadium, and I find not only food trucks but beer trucks, and all of those things you would want, with all of the the big wooden benches and tables, lines and lines and lines and lines of them with umbrellas, and everybody out there having clearly a very good time. Okay, so so that was it.
This is like scale modeling Alice in Wonderland.
So I finished the day, like 4 o'clock or something, and I thought, all right, that's it. I was back at our Airbnb thing that we had because you can't get any hotels; they're all full. We had to get a place about 8 miles out of town. Okay, there's the place is packed, the city's packed, all right, with modelers. So I'm looking at photos from on the Facebook page for that day, and I'm looking at some of the vendor pictures, and I thought, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. And I managed to see in one of the photos that is not the same building where I was today. And I quickly
there's a whole nother set of venues.
So I went to her, and I had a list, right? I had a list, so I kind of knew right down to, and in particular, there was some MIG stuff that I wanted. I even had the actual inventory numbers of what I was looking for. Anyway, I went to her and I said, I just need to let you know, I don't think I saw the whole show today, and I get that look. And I said, I need to go back in the morning, and we're going to be there. I'm going to be about another 3 or 4 hours. And she says, okay, when are you going to be done? I said, all right, well, they open at 7 because at 7, that's when everybody can get access to take photos of all the models. So they only allow you in from 7 to 8 with people that have serious camera equipment that are actually going to take photos. Okay. So, so I managed to get in because of my contact, but I got to look at that. But then, so sure enough, I find, and I can't believe I missed this, the other stadium. And you've seen that gate, you've seen that Gates of Heaven thing where you go like there was signs where the rays of light are. And I go in this little side door because I thought I know where this place is. I know exactly. And I go through this door that says no entry in Hungarian because I just can't read it because I know that's okay. We're good. I managed to talk my way past the security guard and tell him I'm one of the vendors in really bad Spanish, which he doesn't know. And I say, I'm with Mig. In Spanish, and the Hungarian guy's like, okay, he's over there. I'm like, great. So anyway, I'm standing at the doors, the big double doors or triple doors that go into the second stadium, and there's an entire vendor room full of things that like, okay, oh, God. I've missed this. And if you all know what an Apple store, I think everyone knows what an Apple store looks like, right? So if you can imagine an Apple store full of Frill tracks and only Frill tracks fitted to models, and there it is. And that's the first thing on the left. And it's not just like we don't have that in stock or it'll be here tomorrow. It's there. It's there right now. And if you talk to the guy, he'll even put some of them together while you shop.
Adam, let me interrupt you and ask you about the vendors.
Go ahead.
Here at a U.S. show, you get a mix or blend of online stores, brick and mortars, manufacturers, and guys liquidating collections. Was that the same at Motion, or was it more manufacturers and actual retail vendors?
I would say 75% manufacturers. Probably less than 5% would have been people exiting collections. And I tell you why that mix, I've got a theory as to why that would be that way, because I'd thought about that before, is that in Central Europe, and this is where you're talking about Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Ukraine, models from the Ukraine there, by the way, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Romania, Yugoslavia, Croatia, all the Slavic states, those guys have really only been modelling for about 25 years.
Right.
Models were not available in Eastern Europe, right? So modelers in that part of the world are generally much younger. I would say more in the 25 to 45 range. They've been exposed only to the latest stuff. They don't know Matchbox or Airfix. They don't know that, right? That's not in their spectrum. They will have very little knowledge of Revell or Monogram or any of those, because those things were just not in their world. Of course, they know the Tamiyas and Hasegawas and Fujimis just because they are who they are. But so there's people are still building collections. They haven't got to the point where they need to exit them yet. That's my theory.
That makes perfect sense to me. Mike, by the way, make a note. We need to go to Motion.
Like I said, it's sounds like the Alice in Wonderland of scale modeling. I think so. Adam, did you run into my friends at a SBS by chance?
No, I saw the vendors, but at that time, all of the tables were literally surrounded by people, like several layers. And I was there and this is like, we're talking 2 and 3 people deep. All right. I mean, this is nuts.
Yes.
I saw the SBS stuff because I talked to the guys and about some of their kits that I actually have myself. And he's actually a Ukrainian guy. And I said, oh, look, have you got this? Have you got that? Yeah. And he showed it to me and I bought one of the things. That was the only conversation that happened. There was no time for chatting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just too, there's just.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe on the second day, there would have been some of that, but funny story, when I was on the Sunday in the second stadium, and I thought, good thing I've got my plastic with me. I see the MiG display, and I'd heard through one of my other friends at the show that I said, someone was complaining that nobody spoke Spanish, and I go over to the MiG display, and sure enough, I go up and I start asking stuff, and I'm getting this blank look in English. And I thought, okay, I'll slip into Espanol, living in Texas. And I used to live down on the Mexican-US border for 7 years, so I'm kind of okay to get through with that. And I lived in Chile for a while, so I get that. So I slipped into that, and this Spanish lady comes up to me, puts her arms around me, grabs my cheeks and says, oh, gracias. Anyway, and I said, look, I've got this list. Here's all the item numbers. Can you take care of it? Put it all in a bag. I got to be somewhere else. I'll be back in 15 minutes. And sure enough, to have somebody at the MiG booth do all your personal shopping for you was just pretty freaking wonderful.
All because you uttered a few phrases in Spanish.
She was just thrilled. And actually, while she was doing that, there was some kits that I actually had on my list that I really wanted, and it just so happened that there was a Polish company next door that manufactures those kits. And again, you've seen this before, you guys, where you look on the vendor, on the shelf, and there's a blur of 1,000 kits that are there, but there's this one beam of light that's pointing towards that one kit that you needed. And, of course, I needed at least 2.
The one you were looking for.
There it was. So, in that whole vendor stadium, they call it a fair, by the way, as in, as we would call a state fair or whatever, they call it a fair.
Sure, yeah.
I'd come across stuff where I'd be like, there's some 135th resin stuff here that's, I'd open up and I think, you sure this is really resin? This looks really injected plastic to me. It's that good. And after about 4 hours and, X number of swipes on the credit card. The credit card said, no, I can't do it anymore. And the Spanish lady was giving me more free stuff, and then I said to her, okay, well, after I finish doing everything, I just want to walk around the store and buy some things anyway. So I did that, and that was it. So fantastic.
Hey, Mike, again, bucket list, mark
no
it
doubt.
down. No. B, shout out to your wife, who clearly is a model wife, and all praise be upon her. Number 3, my understanding is that there were about 3,000 models entered in the contest.
That's correct. It was just over 3,000. I think it was 3,052 was the last count I saw.
See, that's the size of a U.S. national. That is pretty much the exact size, more or less, depending on what part of the country it's in. That is the size of a U.S. national. And how did they get through judging and putting out the awards?
There's a question that goes before that, Dave.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
What is the award format at that show?
Thank you, Mike.
It's gold, silver, bronze, but they judge, to sort of hybrid answer, I think, both of your questions simultaneously. They judge using what I would call what we would know as combined IPMS amps system. Everything is scored, and the same ratios apply, right? I mean, of those three, when we go to a nationals here, there's going to be, a small quantity of, we'll say, motorcycles, or a small quantity of Formula One cars. There's going to be, a lot of 148th, 172nd armour or aircraft, or 135th armour, right? So those sort of ratios to me looked pretty consistent. By the way, it was 798 modelers entered, those 3,000 models, okay?
That's a good ratio.
Into 60 categories, and it was just over 50 countries of where there was people from. And it was interesting, I could understand because they were talking in a combination of English and Hungarian when they were gathering up the judges. And by the way, that is already predetermined before the event. So they're not, for want of a better term, begging for judges on the morning before. They already have that figured out.
Gotcha.
So
they've already got that all done.
Yep. Yeah, that's established about a month before, because there are briefing documents that come out beforehand.
That's very much like a U.S. national. In U.S. national, other than the training judges, which are folks who show up and volunteer to be trained as future judges, the judges are already established a month ahead of time, and so that's very similar.
So if you can imagine, so the judging occurs around about 1 o'clock, starts about 1 o'clock in the afternoon of the first day, the Saturday, and that they close off some parts of the areas of around the stadium while little mobs of judges work their way around stuff. But it's fairly meticulous judging. I mean, I stuck my head into it. I watched some of the ship judging going on from a distance, and they checked every vessel that was there, and in fact the judges for that group in the ships were actually all from Taiwan. There was 4 of them that were there, and so that was pretty cool to watch. I'm
going to ask you a question that you may or may not know the answer to. Is it the city that is coordinating and putting together the judging teams, or is the local club assisting with that? How are these judging teams assembled?
That is done. The city has nothing to do with the model aspect of it. Okay.
Okay.
They are, they're going to provide all the tables, all the chairs, all of the infrastructure that's needed, right? What happens, in fact, they've already given the dates. I can get you excited already. They've given the dates for 2024's show. That's already out. They start a whole process of I start saving your money. They start a whole process beforehand, and of course, there's a whole cadre of judges already that are in Hungary from other shows, just like you would see in the US, right? Everyone sort of knows who they.
Sure.
You're right. There's something given to the judges for participating in that. And as I said, a very good friend of mine is the head, so I knew a little bit about how this was working and how their tiebreakers worked and stuff like that. But they would they judged from 1 until about, I think it was 9 o'clock in the evening when they got everything done.
Wow!
But here's what the amazing thing was: all the models had to stay on the table until 2 p.m. on the Sunday. And you had to, between 2 and 3 p.m., you had to remove your model. It had to be gone. And at that point, and this was the most phenomenal transformation. So you could imagine a whole basketball stadium full of literally hundreds of tables and just thousands of models on, and you've got, signs and documents and all this stuff. Between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., at 4 p.m., the awards ceremony begins. And at 4 p.m., all of the seating, so any trace that there was a model contest there is now gone. What there is a podium, a whole line of tables.
They don't put the awards out by the models at all.
No, they actually announce the winners of some of the placings after the event.
Gotcha.
So this whole stadium is completely cleared in about a 90-minute period. All of the seating is pulled out, and the awards ceremony begins. Now, this isn't the kind of like we see in clubs here, which, don't get me started on this, like first place, Panzer 3, Type J, 2, so-and-so. Second place, these things like, I can't, anyway. So there is the town.
We feel your pain.
Thank you. It could be so easily fixed, but that's another discussion. If you can imagine, then all of the bleachers are pulled out. The bleachers are full from top to bottom, and on the other side of the stadium is the podium with a series of tables and a huge video display, which is used for sports scoring usually, right? Because that's what it's for. And the town council thanks everybody for being there, right? The lovely lady that had sent me the email said thank you to everybody. And they, spoke a little bit about, how obviously that was the 25th anniversary, and everyone was very appreciative of that, and they go through some of the awards, but not all of the awards. There's 60 categories, and if we use the example we were just joking about, like just imagine going through 180 placing type things, right? So they do give they do give out some notification to specific individuals that they've won something, right? But they're not going to find out completely, whether they won the typical best of shows or best aircraft or best Hungarian, subject. Well, they're not going to that will either come out with the speeches at the end. But it's a very formal kind of thing, and it was done within 45 minutes, right? And they put up some of the stuff, and it was there was a thank you from the head of the fair. Like there was one of the vendors is the captain of all the fair, okay? And I don't know, I want to say it was Attack Models out of Czech Republic. And that guy spoke in English and Czech. I remember that because no one understood him in Czech. and he was saying, they'd had a great show. Thank you very much, and all that sort of stuff. And by 5 o'clock, everyone's out of there and the restaurants are all full again. So yeah.
I would love to know, again, because I'm involved with IPMS USA and the Nationals, and I know a lot about the expense and the finance and the profit or loss. I assume that the city, since the city's putting this on, the city bears the burden and the city gets the profit from the show. Of course, they're really running it as a promotion for the town itself and all of the businesses in the town. But I would love to sit down with the lady and talk about what the finances of the Moson show look like, because that would be fascinating.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's I don't know this for certain, but it was very evident to me that everything besides what you did with the vendors was basically you were paying the city, right? And
right.
So the fact that they are now at the point where they've got multiple sports stadiums going tells me that clearly along the way that they've invested in this big time. Just to see the mayor of the town thanking everybody he spoke in Hungarian and German because they're right near the Austrian border, so he's pretty fluent in that. And in English, right, thanking everybody. Right. Was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I mean, I was way past. I guess I was way past the pretty cool bit by that bit, but I thought this doesn't surprise me anymore. On the participants, a little bit, it was okay. There was in excess of 50 countries, and what got me was there was people from every continent except Antarctica for obvious reasons, but there were people from South America, obviously from North America, and they did this really well. They had a big world map, and when you went in, you had to go ahead and pinpoint where you were and stick a pin in it, right? And so when I went in, I think there was only a couple in the US. But I went back like 24 hours later and I thought, holy dooly, there's people from, like there was from Bangladesh and there was a guy from Kenya and it all sort of like, wow, this is phenomenal. South Africa, some Australians. So that was pretty amazing actually that people are trekking that far.
This thing sounds surreal. I might, again, bucket list, we have to do this because now I'm not sure how I'm going to explain to my wife, hey, honey, I'm going to go to Hungary for 3 or 4 days. At least Adam's got the excuse of, hey, honey, you can go back and visit the family.
True.
But
I think the one thing we haven't touched on, and we don't have to touch on it much because we've all seen the photos from the show. But Adam, yes. What was your impression of the overall quality of the entrance?
Oh, exceptional. I looked at every table, that I could, and I make this statement absolutely seriously. When I only saw one model from a glance, which had an obvious error in it. And in that particular case, I remember it clearly. Yeah. It was just way too glossy for what it needed to be for scale. Model quality was phenomenally good. US nationals level for sure. Maybe even a few more exceptions on that. I'm a bit of a, I enjoy 72nd scale stuff, whether it's aircraft or armor, and I studied all that very well as well.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah, I know your thing, Dave. Yeah, I'm right into that, and that was, it was phenomenal. And where you see more glaring errors like in ships, for example, where you can see railings that are bent or not affixed correctly or things like that. I couldn't find it. And even the classic stuff with aircraft, whether it was a wheel that was out of alignment or something of that nature. No, I couldn't see any evidence of it at all.
Adam, there is at least some impression that modelers from Eastern Europe have a level of quality that is really pretty spectacular. And I kind of wonder what, if anything, explains the high level of modeling out of Eastern Europe, given that, as you pointed out, basically prior to 1990, these poor suckers are stuck with VEB kits out of East Germany and whatever smuggled across the border. There's a level of talent in Central Europe and Eastern Europe that I would love for somebody to explain.
I think that I got a hint of this last year. I went to a regionals in southern Hungary, and there was probably 400, 500 entries, right? And it was like a mini Moson,
right?
Mini Moson in terms of layout and all that. And I walked around that, and I thought, oh, these are incredible. This is really good modelling. I wasn't an entrant or anything, and it wasn't just it wasn't just the quality as it was maybe the innovation, some of the obscure, the more obscure subjects maybe were out there. By the way, Mike, I did find rubber botons in 1/72nd out there. I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
See, Mike has to complete his 35th scale Reba Botan and enter it at Motion before Mike and I pass away.
We'll see.
So I don't know what it is. I've just seen that, like, maybe it's it's a different modelling age genre too that's doing this, right? There's different.
Well, I think they're probably creating their own influence.
Yeah, could be
because of lack of exposure to everything else in the West. It's a fresh start, essentially.
Yeah.
Again, I saw when I was in Penang and Singapore and Hong Kong at contests in the past. Again, in the Asian market, you can only imagine that the quality is exceptional. And so and those guys have been doing it for a long time. Maybe the propensity to enter contests is there. I don't know. I've been surprised though. I've got a friend who's active in the Hungarian Air Force, and I've been very fortunate to actually get on several of their military facilities. Now, going into a military facility in Central Europe, ex-Warsaw Pact, is not something that everybody can do any day, right? And I've had for a while there. I will tell you this: the head of the Hungarian Air Force, the general, was actually a modeler, and at Szolnok Air Base. Hungary has two principal air bases. One is a helicopter one is a fighter base. And at the helicopter base, they have, and I wasn't allowed to take any photos. I wasn't allowed to take a camera in there, but they have in their, they have an officers club. And in the officers club, I was up there, there, my friend said, "Oh, I'll show you this room," and he grabs his keys and has to unlock it, and we go in. And anyway, long story short, I couldn't think of one reasonably produced aircraft that did not have a plastic model of on display that's been created in history. And this is in a little town, little military town in the back roads of Hungary, full of glass, in a full glass case. And, I'd say, F4 Wildcat biplane, right, or whatever. And he'd say, oh, yeah, over there. There we go. Oh, here it is, right? I'd go into things that were real, that had no earthly business being there. And so there's been a history of this kind of thing going on. And, of course, without even getting to the jet stuff, right, that's there. And they had a full, in 70-second scale, I want to say probably 3,000 models built of basically every aircraft that there was, right, that you could speak to. And I thought, wow, someone's built these. Someone's created these. And I was told they were all from kits. And then one day, to top that off, and again to show that sort of attention, sort of hidden attention to detail, and a lot of Hungarians and Central Europeans, there's a fairly high degree of humility there too. They don't like to kind of stand out. I guess that comes from maybe the way the regimes were back in the day. But one time I was at one of the bases, and I was fortunate enough to go into one of their training shops, and in there was, at that time, there was several MiG-29s and MiG-21s. And they had a MiG-21 there that was skinned. And if you can imagine an aircraft with all of its internal systems, but with no skin, right? And it was a training machine. And I'm looking there, and on the wall and on the floor is like just literally dozens of air-to-air type ordnance, all dummies, just laying there, right? It's training work. And I go up to this MiG, and I'm looking at it, and the guy comes over, and I said, "Oh, you speak English?" He said, "Yeah," and he actually spoke fluent English. And he took me through the guts of this MiG-21 to the point where he said, one thing that we learnt out of all this stuff, because they had Gripens after that from Sweden. He said, was that there were some smart things that were done in the past. He said, all the systems here, anything which is covered brown is related to hydraulic. Anything which is red is related to armament. And you've seen that crazy chrome green, which is in a lot of ex-Soviet jets in the cockpits, the cockpit colour, right? That's a don't touch unless you're authorised colour. That's what it means. It's nothing to do with reflective or being helpful, because he told me, he said, when we would send, we saw this when we had to send aircraft to Afghanistan that we were giving to the Afghans. Because all this stuff was being sold all around the world to third world countries with limited educations, the Russians were very smart. They just said, just train the person to only work on the stuff that's brown. They're not allowed to touch anything else. And so technicians were trained to work by colour. So he said, the fire extinguisher system is orange. He said, follow the orange. He said, that will teach you everything about the system. I'm like, okay. So I've been really, impressed with that kind of ingenuity and detail. And the point is it exists, and it comes out in the modelling as well, very much so.
Now, I've heard much the same story about the way the Soviets color-coded everything, because they were working not only with foreign, folks that they marketed to, but even inside their own country, they had ethnic minorities, for whom Russian was a second language, and they could teach by color.
Yeah, exactly. So I, in dealing with in the modelling world by the way, there are multiple retail modelling stores in Hungary as well. So of course I had to have been there in the past. There must have been some logical reason for me to travel that way. Um, I've been able to check those out as well, and they've got the usual displays in the front counter and all that stuff. So that was pretty exciting. I was going to mention
You've said some things that have resonated with me about just the Hungarians in general, and I just want to, just as a relation back to you, is I'm a military collector, and part of what I collect is the Eastern Front of World War II. A lot of Red Army, but a lot of the Royal Hungarian Army as well. And I've done over the years a lot of business via email with Hungarian sellers and Hungarian collectors. And what you're telling me just reinforces what I've grown to understand in that, is that they are some of the kindest, most humble, honest, forthright people I've ever dealt with in my collecting hobby. And sometimes there's a lot of money being exchanged through some wire transfer to banks you've never heard of. And you just grow to know that you can trust what's going to happen on the other side, because there's just something about the culture there that embodies this humility, and I've just learned to appreciate that. And all my Hungarian friends I've made through my military collecting hobby over the years are some of the best ones I've got.
I can only agree with that. I've found, in doing transactions, of course, because things have had to be mailed to my mother-in-law and all this kind of stuff. And would you believe, in Hungary, when something is delivered by the state or, the national government to a person, they can still accept it in cash from the postman. So the postman is carrying cash, right? And he's walking around, giving out, to my mother-in-law X amount of forints, Hungarian forints, that's the currency. But at the same time, you can pay the postman as well. And that has completely stunned me at times. Of course, they do bank transfers and things like that now as well. But it's still, for older people in Hungary, you sort of, your word is your bond a little bit. It's sort of that way. And, I mean, in the little village where my wife's from, I mean, it's... there's no English speakers. I mean, it's not. When you get to Budapest, yes, you'll find that, and in Western Hungary for sure. But in southern rural Hungary, on the Romanian-Yugoslav border, I mean, there's not going to be any English speakers unless they're really young people or something like that. But I've managed to figure my way, without my wife's assistance, out of so many different sort of scenarios just by that I could have been ripped off, I could have whatever, but never felt that way at all. And so I can only concur with that. And then to top that, the trust that I've had in relation to just some of the military things that I've been able to see has just been phenomenal. I mean, they have at one of the Hungarian air bases, they have a big ex-hangar that's there. And it's full of wrecked World War II stuff that's been recovered. Okay, and none of this stuff is on display. But to give you the backstory to that, Hungary has just like the US does, sort of, for want of a better term, an MIA type program. So if they get evidence that there was maybe a Hungarian fighter that was shot down in World War II and it crashed at a certain place, in those days it was more common that the farmer would quickly bury it because they didn't want the Soviets to know that there was someone there or something like that, right? Or the Germans, or vice versa, okay? So what's happened over the last few decades is that a lot of this stuff has now come up. There was parts of an Italian transport or Italian bomber that the Hungarians used that was being used as a chicken shed for a while until they found it, and in the end the Hungarian Air Force had to pay for the Hungarian farmers' chicken shed, and they managed to take the part of the bomber away. It was a Caprione something. But the last time I was there, guys, my friend said, he said, I've got some new stuff. Come take a look. Okay. And I'm in the shed. I said, what are those big bars? And he says, they're from a gigant. I'm like, what? He said, yeah. He said there was six gigants on the ground at Ketchkemet Air Base that got hit by P-51s when they told me the date, right? And he said once they stopped burning, they just put them in a pile and buried them. He said, so I found out about this, and we got stuck into that pile to find what we could have left. Now, gigants were mainly made of fabric, so much of that was gone. But if you look on the back of the gigant, there are two big spars which stick out of the tail fin, which basically assist in moving the flaps on the back, and they're made of solid steel, and they've got screw connections on each end. And he had 4 of them there. And when I saw them laying on the ground, and I realised just how big they were, and I thought, my goodness, that's an incredible rare piece of equipment. There's no gigants left. There's none of that. These are just pieces that are there. And then put in perspective, laying next to it, what's that a landing gear from? Oh, that's a Lag 3. So what's that? That's a Yak 3. And then, of course, I read something which, turns out to be part of the cowl of a B-24. And this stuff is all, put away. And they just recently did a recovery, and my friend said, we think it's a Focke-Wulf. We haven't dug it out of the ground, but that's what the description was. And sure enough, they find the data plate for it. After decades buried, and it's a Focke-Wulf 190 A8, the long-nosed one. It's a Hungarian build, and they have the serial number for it, right down to the buzz number for it, and they know who the pilot was, and all of that. So there's a lot of that which is done in a little country, and they, of course, they may find a crashed aircraft in Slovakia. Well, there's the politics that occurs that have to be done so that they can cooperate to go ahead and do that extraction. But there's a lot of stuff in Eastern Europe, and certainly my sources have shared with me that in other parts of Eastern Europe and probably in the Soviet Union, of things that are still unknown, if that's the right term. I'm professional friends with someone to do with armoured vehicles, and he's absolutely convinced that there's a quantity of no longer existing anywhere else, but of Hungarian vehicles that are in Russia. Chabas and Zrinyis, you might know, Mike.
Yes. Yep.
You're killing Mike right now.
Killing me too.
Those are rare things. I mean, the production numbers for any of those vehicles just pales compared to what the Germans built, or even obviously what the Allies built. I mean, there's a very small army.
So you find this even in the just sort of on the military thing, back with the modelling. I mean, you find, like, even in the small town where my wife lives, there's a Hungarian army base there, a small one, and that's an engineer unit that does bridge laying. Okay, and there's some rivers and lakes around there, and you see them out there with the pontoon boats and the big extenders, and they're using T-72s with bridge layers on them. And they have BTR-80s, and they convoy those around. Of course, to me, I go gaga when I see them going down the road. And, they're just out and about like normal. So you see things like that all the time. And then, in the little town where she's from, there's a little model store. Every time I go there, I'm always buying glue, and I've always got to buy another paintbrush, So
I've got to say, I admire your lovely model bride. She clearly has the right attitude. B, I want to get you back on in the future to talk about model shows in Asia compared to model shows in the U.S. and Europe. So this is only the beginning of the tip of the iceberg, but I'm looking forward to future discussions.
Yeah, absolutely happy to talk anytime. I was going to say one other last thing I made a note of to mention. One of the cool things was at the Moson show was, you might have remembered me saying that the Hungarian army had a demo there, right? They had some stuff on display, and not far from that town, there's a Hungarian army base. With leopards. They have leopards there and lynxes and something else, but that's kind of the armor base. And they had on display a gidron, which is Hungarian for horse, and a gidron is an armored personnel carrier, and they just received their first batch of 40 of those. And it's a NATO spec. It's manufactured in Turkey, actually, and then the production will be the rest of it in Hungary. But I got to get inside it, no photos or anything like that, but I got to get inside it, got to poke around in it. Really impressive machine. You get out of that, and the next thing next to it is a quad-mounted Mistral anti-aircraft SAM system that they've got on display, and they demonstrate, how it can go from being unpacked to active in 25 seconds, and they actually demo it, and the things like a pop-out missile system. So that was really cool just to see that there. But the unique thing about it was that, and I finally got to ask somebody about this, but if you look at the Hungarian military vehicles today, Mike, you'll appreciate this, they're painted in the same scheme as they were in World War II again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they like that scheme. Cool. And so from a modelling perspective on this Gidron, I was right up next to it, like making sure, okay, what was the primary colour? What was the tertiary colour? How did this overlap? How did they do that? Where's the overspray happening? How fine is it? And my wife was actually there, and she said, "You're looking to see how close the edge is for the airbrush, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah."
Absolutely.
But
Adam, you've married well.
I've done all right. Batting above my, what do they call that? What's the American term for that? Yeah. Batting above your grade or something?
The
Punching above your weight.
The American,
that's it.
The American term is you've outkicked your coverage.
There's lots of ways to say it.
Yeah.
So April 20th and 21st next year is the next Moson show.
Okay, Mike, get on that.
If you want to get to it, the bottom line is you get to Budapest however you get to Budapest, or you can go to Vienna and rent a car and drive over. Vienna's a little closer, but it makes no difference. It's all going to come down to how much you want to spend. But, I usually fly Dallas to London to Budapest and then rent a car and I'm on my way, So it's not that complicated. It's not, it's pretty straightforward. Airfares are airfares. They are what they are. So I plan on being there. I think she already has recognised that.
Well, Dave and I thank you for having this discussion with us. It's been really more than I anticipated. I cannot believe I had preconceived notions about this show just based on what I read online, but there's so much of the backstory and the back planning of this show and how it's held that you just don't get in the scale modeling literature. So Adam, thank you so much for coming on, and really appreciate your perspective.
And Adam, you have to promise to come back, because we need to talk about Asian shows in comparison as well. All right?
No worries, fellas.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks for coming on. Well, Dave, it'd sure be nice to be a modeling world traveler.
Yeah, you know what? If when I hit that lottery money that gives me the freedom, I'm pretty sure that one of the things I would do would be traveling all over the world to different modeling shows just to see how different. Because whether it's Moson or Scale Model World, or I forget the big one in Europe, was in Belgium or the Netherlands or wherever. But just to see, because those shows each have their own different flavor. Now, you and I just we went to Canada earlier this year, and Heritage Con was very similar to an American model show. Not exactly the same, but similar enough that, because let's face it, Canadians and Americans are culturally pretty similar compared to Europeans or folks over in Asia. So I would like to go and if I hit that kind of money, go and travel the world just to go to different model shows. So, Mike, we're here about the end of the episode. Have you finished your modeling fluid?
I have. The Narragansett, an easy drink. It's good. It's not like a craft beer or anything like that, but gets you through a hot day, gets you through Memorial Day.
I was going to say, would you describe it as a summer beer?
I guess I would describe it as a summer beer.
Yeah, well,
that's fair enough. Yeah. Well, what about yours, man? How's that beer going?
The Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale, really good. It's not as pale ale-y as you would think. It's not as hoppy as you might expect just from the name India Pale Ale. It's very lager adjacent. It has a little bit more body, but I could. This could easily be a summer beer. It's light enough. It's drinkable. It's again 5% alcohol by volume. So in the scheme of things, you can drink a couple while you're doing yard work or hanging out by the pool, and it's not going to hit you hard. Whatever listener brought the Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale, thank you. This might have been Evan. Evan, if it was you, let me know. But whoever brought it, I appreciate it. Thank you. It was a new experience. We're here at the end of the episode, Mike, and it's time for shout-outs. Do you have any shout-outs?
Well, Dave, I'd like to shout out all the listeners who have contributed to the Wheel of Accidental Wisdom for the next time we run that episode. Steve Hustad certainly sent us a lot, but we've got quite a few others on the way, and it's going to be like the most populated wheel we've ever had. So I almost wish it was the next episode, but it's not. But it's going to be a good time. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for doing that.
And keep them coming. Listen, even though we've got a lot of them and a loaded wheel, we can always take more. And I'll tell you what, people come up with these ones that are real thought-provoking that you never would have thought of to begin with on your own. So please keep them coming.
You got a shout out, Dave?
Yes, I do. I'd like to shout out all the listeners who over the last 72 hours or so reached out to me with their concerns, their expressions of support, their sympathy for the difficulties that were created from the journal editorial I mentioned earlier. I've got to say the feedback and the criticism was in the vast majority very positive, very supportive, and very, very forward-looking as far as the society and the work that I and some of the other board members are doing. And I'd like to thank all of you who reached out to express yourself on that subject, because that really meant a lot to me personally, and it gave me hope for moving forward. So I want to shout out all of you. Thank you.
Well, Dave, we're at the end of this one, man.
Yep. We're going to be in Texas before you know it, brother.
That's right. Well, we got 2 more episodes to get out this month before you even think about that, and probably a couple in July as well. So
yep,
we'll be there soon enough.
Yeah, yes, we will.
But until then, Dave, as we always say,
So many kids.
so little time, man. We'll catch you on the flip side, and